Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's my lecture is about autonomic nerves to the eye and Horner syndrome. At first, autonomic nerves to the eye. The eye is innervated by both sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers. The sympathetic preganglionic fibers arise in the Eringer-Westphal nucleus and then passes in the third nerve to the ciliary ganglion, which lies immediately behind the eye. There, the preganglionic fiber synapses with postganglionic parasympathetic neuron, which in turn sends the fiber through ciliary nerve into the eyeball. This nerve excites the ciliary muscles that control the focusing of eye lens and the sphincter of iris that constrict the pupil. This is the figures of autonomic innervation of eye to control the accommodation and pupillary aperture. The sympathetic innervation of eye originates in the intermediolateral horn cell of the first thoracic segment of spinal cord. From there, sympathetic fibers enter the sympathetic chain and pass upward to superior cervical ganglion, where they synapse with the postganglionic neuron. Postganglionic sympathetic fiber from these then spread along the surface of carotid artery and successively smaller arteries until they reach the eye. There, the sympathetic fiber innervate the radial fibers of iris which open the pupil, as well as several extraocular muscles of the eye. The sympathetic nerves from the brain to the eyes and face on one side of the body are occasionally interrupted. This interruption frequently occurs in the cervical sympathetic chain, which causes the clinical condition called Horner syndrome, which named after Johann Friedrich Horner, the Swiss ophthalmologist who first discovered the syndrome in 1869. Claude Bernard also eponymized with the condition. This eye disorder, also called Bernard-Horner syndrome or Claude Bernard-Horner syndrome or oculosympathetic palsy. The syndrome consists of the following effects. At first, because of interruption of sympathetic nerve fiber to the pupillary dilator muscle, the pupil remains persistently constricted to a smaller diameter than the pupil of opposite side, which is called miosis. Secondly, the superior eyelid drop because it is normally maintained in an open position during working hour, partly by contraction of smooth muscle fiber embedded in the superior eyelid and innervated by sympathetic. Therefore, destruction of sympathetic nerve makes it impossible to open the superior eyelid as widely as normally. They are the features of Horner syndrome. Thirdly, the blood vessels under the skin on the corresponding side of the face and head become persistently dilated. So, sometimes there is flushing on the affected side on the face. Fourthly, sweating which require sympathetic nerve signal. So, sweating cannot occur on the side of the face and head affected by Horner syndrome, which is called anhidrosis. Patient may have apparent anophthalmos, which means affected eye looks to be slightly sunken in, but it is not the case. The ptosis from inactivation of superior tarsal muscle causes the eye to appear sunken in, but when actually measured, anophthalmos is not present. This is the figures of left-sided Horner syndrome. Horner syndrome is usually acquired as a result of disease such as a stroke, tumor, spinal cord injury, but may also be congenital, that means inborn, which is associated with heterochromatic iris, or iatrogenic, which means caused by medical treatment. Horner syndrome may be results of repeated minor head trauma such as being hit with a saucer ball, although most causes are relatively benign. Horner syndrome may reflect serious disease in neck or chest, such as Pankos tumor, which is a tumor in the apex of lung, or thyrocervical venous dilatation. In some cases, no underlying cause can be found. This is known as idiopathic Horner syndrome. There is no specific treatment for Horner syndrome, but treatment for underlying cause may restore the normal nerve functions. Thank you for your patience sharing.